Hey, folks. Good morning to you. Good day. Good evening. Wherever you may be on the face of our dear planet. My name is Tosin Kolaoli, and I welcome you to Climate Action 101. Climate Action 101. It's about individuals. It's about corporations. It's about government policies. It's about that act of positive and practical act that is responding to mitigating our climate crisis. Drawing down carbons in the atmosphere. Planting trees. All kinds of actions that helps to reduce our carbon emissions in the atmosphere. And so we have individuals who want to share their stories about what they're doing, how they're leading actions locally, and how they're leading actions in their personal, private life. And joining us today is Kelly Longfellow, who is a care for creation advocate. She's zealous and a leader that is committed to understanding the global issues and the impact on national security, infrastructures, the economy, humankind on a shared planet. She is a PhD candidate at the Erasmus University, focusing on personal transformation towards sustainable action within place of worship. Mm-hmm. Thank you for joining us, Kelly.
Absolutely, Toast. This is such a pleasure talking to you.
Thank you. Thank you also for being gracious to accept our invitation to share your perspective with us today.
Absolutely. Go ahead.
Yeah. By the way, what makes you believe in climate change? I've come across a lot of people who don't believe. Why are you doing this?
Why am I doing this? What's my elevator speech, right? I'm an Army brat. My dad is a retired Army, U.S. Army, and we've lived across both oceans. So I went to kindergarten, first grade in Germany, where I learned where you take the bottles back to the store to exchange. So I grew up with that. Then in junior high, we moved to Japan. And that is where my eyes opened. As you know, back in 1987 was the Montreal Protocol. And that's when the whole conversation about the ozone layer and the CFLs and all the hairsprays, like, oh my gosh, my hairspray is contributing to the ozone. And so with that, we moved to Japan. And Japan is, at the time, mostly, smog, and you could only see Mount Fuji certain times of the year because of the heavy fog. And I made that global connection living in Germany, and then being from the US and now living in Japan. I woke up and I realized my impacts contribute to those there in Japan and everywhere else, because at that same time I was in 8th grade, earth science, and learning about, air movement and soil and the earth and rocks and everything. And then just realizing air moves things, and of course the smog happening, and of course the Montreal Protocol is happening with the ozone. So I don't know what really, but this little 13, 12-year-old in myself was like, wow, this is something here and I can do something about it. And so that's kind of the beginning. So it's been probably a 30-year journey for me to really understand, environmental work and the impacts and, my impact and so forth. So absolutely.
Great. Thank you so much. And currently you work on sustainability, programs, and actually sustainability education and the federal courtroom and office building within the southern central states. What does that look like?
Every day is a different story. So yes, so I earned my degrees in environmental science, which is wonderful to do. And then since I graduated my undergrad, for the past 20 years, I've been an environmentalist for our federal government. I have been in several agencies, coordinating the Corps of Engineers, and been deployed as well. But right now I'm with GSA, General Services Administration. And what I do for them, I'm one of their sustainability program specialists. And as you know, GSA, we own and operate all the federal facilities, like a downtown courthouse, a downtown office. So what I'm responsible for, I'm at a regional office here in Fort Worth, Texas, and I assist in the 5-state area. And we have about 200 buildings in our footprint. So what I do is I look at our energy conservation, water conservation, and I'm actually, one of my fortes actually is waste management. That's one of my what I like to focus on, and including green purchasing. Like our cleaning products in our buildings, what kind of green cleaning products can we use to decrease our air pollution, and of course our water pollution through our cleaning. So that's a lot to look at one federal building, but that's what I've been doing the past 9 years. And by doing that, you could put words in a contract and say, you know, sustainability here and energy conservation, but at the end of the day, Tosin, it's the individual who actually operates and use the building. You can put up signs that say, turn off light when not in use, or call in for a leak, or even put in a blue bin for someone to recycle. But I can't make them do that. So what can I do and say and lead by example to be that advocate and they have that aha moment for those people, those persons who actually occupy the building and are guests in our building? So yes, it's ongoing education as well.
Great. But before you started doing this, what came first? Was it the realization of what's happening around the environment that led you to this kind of discipline, or was it that when you got involved in working in that space, that was when you discovered the personal need to be more concerned about the environment?
I think a little bit of both. Just being an advocate, environmentalist, my personal life, based on my own personal experiences. And when I took this job 9 years ago, I was like, what does being an environmentalist in a building mean? Because usually you think of environmental, you think of trees and grass, and bunnies and things, outside. But I was like, what's internally? And so only when I accept this position and I realize the impact buildings have. Buildings, 30% of our greenhouse gases come from buildings. And we eat, we sleep, we shop, we worship all in buildings. So it was like not my aha moment, but an additional action in my professional life and personal life as well. Like I just bought a home 4 years ago and I'm remodeling it. So learning what I've learned at work and applying here at home has allowed me to make healthier decisions in my own remodel and my own purchasing. So to kind of, I guess, answer your question, a little bit of both. I'm moving forward with that.
But what was the aha movement for you in this?
I mean, as in personally working?
Personally, that transformed your attitude to everything.
A little bit of everything. Not to say we were living in Japan, that was an aha moment. Then moving forward, in the late 90s, I was an undergrad. I really wasn't, I earned my degree, but it was more of an outside, and the pollution that way. But I guess when I was also deployed to Afghanistan, realizing what a torn country at the moment it is, and how we're there to assist them to moving forward. Just seeing how we live and recognizing the waste. It was really, I don't say my aha moment, but the moment where, I'm a Christian by faith. My denomination is Methodist, but by faith I'm a Christian. And when the Pope came out with the encyclical in 2015 to care for our common home, that is when I was like, finally, someone in a faith organization has declared I could be a scientist and a Christian at the same time. Because at the moment, it was like, well, I can be a Christian, but of course, science, is this. But the Pope Francis, he put it together. And that is when I went forward with this, like, you know what, this is it, that personal movement, because religion is personal. It's not a group, even though you worship in a group setting, but still a personal decision to do certain things, especially in a religion and a faith. And that's when I was like, this is it. I can move forward with that. So, but how does other people make that change? So I guess that was my aha moment. It's more, not say aha, but more like that validation.
Yeah, thank you. It's quite interesting to hear about this perspective and what you're doing individually. But sometimes I find it that there's like this deliberate effort by the media on this fixation of individual responsibility, and we're always talking about 10 keys, 5 keys to individually reducing our carbon footprint. At the emphasis, some of the times we take it away from the corporations and from government sometimes.
Mm-hmm.
How can we get government to be more effective in response to climate change while not being political at the same time?
So actually, our government has some wonderful environmental laws and regulations. The very first law was put in place in 1990 called NEPA, National Environmental Policy Act. And President Nixon put that in place. And that is when the EPA, Environmental Protection Agency, was developed. We have the Indoor Air Quality Act. We have Clean Water Act. We have all these wonderful acts. But at the end of the day, it's the enforcement of it. Is the enforcement of it. Right now, which I think personally should be illegal, but it's actually not, you can sell your carbon emissions. So if you have one company that is producing at a lower level of carbon emissions, you can sell that percentage to somebody else who is exceeding that level. How is that ethical? So actually we have great laws and so forth, but it's the push of that, making it more responsibility, and the fact knowing which companies are polluters, not only for air but for water, and for low economical areas where they're illegally dumping. Knowing that, then you'll vote with your dollar. Vote with your dollar. And that is one way an individual can make change is by their daily purchasing.
Thank you. Is that what you mean by vote with your dollar?
Vote with your dollar. Like when you go to the store and you want to buy this peanut butter versus that peanut butter based on ethics, based on is it a plastic bottle or a glass bottle? Is it non-GMO or is it GMO? And then you vote, you purchase based on that. And that is just how you actually can contribute daily on decreasing not only your carbon footprint, but of course, water pollution, air pollution, soil pollution.
Wow. Thank you. And one of your focus is that you're devoted to understanding global issues and how it impacts on national security and infrastructures and all that. So how do you think climate change threatens, or what impact does it have on national security?
So maybe make sure I answer your question. What does the climate crisis relate to our global security?
Yes. No. How does climate change, how does it affect the national security? What impacts does it have on infrastructures? What impact does it have on peace and conflicts? In just put it in context of United States.
So the Department of the Navy, don't call me everything like that, but I believe Department of the Navy, especially the DOD, Department of Defense, has declared climate crisis as a national security concern and issue. A couple of years ago, I really enjoyed watching CBS in the morning, with Jane Pauley, but that there's another newscasting at 60 Minutes that every year the Navy has an exercise where they actually go to the Arctic. And, the submarines are down there, they're doing exercise. And one of I forgot the general's name, but it was on the show. He was showing how they have a target, right? And they're trying to get to that target. But due to our ice melting in the Arctic, this exercise is not allowing us to meet that target that they have. And they're off by several feet. That's tremendous. And now that the ice is not solidifying as it has been in previous decades, and even last year, it's allowing more movement underneath the ice. There's still ice, but it's not as thick. It's not, it doesn't last as long. So now you're having other entities going across the Arctic. So yes, that is a global threat. If you can have anyone and everybody go underneath the Arctic. And that's just one example. And as we know, Syria is one of our first areas of
Leave
drought.
that place.
Pardon?
Oh, sorry, not you.
So, Syria is one of our first entities of climate crisis. People are migrating and movement because of lack of water and a lack of food and drought. So therefore, that is an emergency. People are being dispersed, which is causing a global issue, which is a global security issue. Nothing against people personally, but now it's affecting our water supplies in every areas, our food chains, our transportation. It's happening, but some of us aren't seeing it because it's not in our own backyard.
Yeah.
And so it's not in my backyard. So I can still turn on my water here, in my house. I can still, go to the grocery store and buy my carrots and things. But it's understanding that global footprint, that global security, even our food security as well.
Okay, great. But how do you address? Unfortunately, climate change concern or discussion, or your belief or lack of belief in climate science, sometimes has been politicized. So it could depend on what or party or what party you belong to. So how do you get people who still have this strong doubt or who have been influenced by partisan belief not to believe in climate change?
I mean, the climate deniers?
Yes, I didn't want to use that word, but thank you.
And the world is not flat; the world is round.
Well, the flat earthers.
Yes, that's a whole other conversation. So, how do I talk to climate person who don't believe in climate change?
Yes.
I don't believe that they are people who don't believe in climate change. I think there are people who just don't understand that I'm going to the store, I'm buying my groceries, and I'm buying a new shirt. How is that contributing? So when you talk to somebody, you shouldn't talk science. You should talk about what affects a person. Affects us is clean water, right? The ability to live in a nice home, the ability to eat healthy. So when you have a conversation, it's very difficult to bring up science because science is very difficult sometimes for people to understand. So that's why you bring it down. And the basic needs is food, water, and shelter. And if you bring it from that perspective, that might have that personal change. Because for example, a T-shirt, it takes 2,700 gallons to make one T-shirt. Yes. So I think you're on mute, but I didn't hear you, but I heard your lips move. But yes.
Yes.
So
27,700
gallons to make one T-shirt. And I'm a sorority woman. I had all kinds of T-shirts in college for this event, that event. And now I have a T-shirt called of it. But now knowing that global impact on the water that was used, and of course the pesticides, to grow that cotton, because as you know, cotton is the most pesticide crop we have. And of course, our grass and yards is the most watered vegetation here in the US. So knowing now, I know now, I have decreased my consumption of T-shirts. I don't need another T-shirt. Why is that? So now I buy thrift. But kind of going back to the climate, talk to climate deniers, you don't bring up science. You bring up daily life and daily actions. And having that aha moment, oh my gosh, it takes 2,700 gallons to make one T-shirt. That's water. And as we know, we have the same amount of water since the dinosaurs, right? But some of that water is we have a displacement of water issues. We have enough water, it's in the wrong location. And so knowing that information will maybe change someone's aspect of their purchasing and so forth. So that's what I would actually bring more of, is the daily actions versus really talking about the science and statistics.
Thank you. I wonder if it's possible to just, like, develop new lifestyle or change a lifestyle, and yet not have this feeling of I'm not going to enjoy life. Like, people just want to enjoy life. We just want to, as much as we can afford it, we just want to buy the best of life.
Yes.
So how do you strike a balance between having it all and still living sustainably?
That's a really good question. Enjoying life is also self-love. And sometimes when you don't have self-love, you binge, or you overshop, or you overeat, right? So that right there can help move forward. But what does Kelly do to make sure she stays happy and healthy and enjoys life? Is moderation. Absolute moderation. The scripture that I go back to, besides Genesis 2, verse 15, God put Adam and Eve in the garden to take care of it. That was the first law God gave us from the 10 Commandments. But the next one that I actually follow is Exodus, chapter 16, where they're in the desert and God could only take enough manna from heaven for their daily use. And I keep that, as I move forward, my daily use, my daily needs. And it's so true. When you keep that mantra in your heart, in your mind, you realize I'm happy. I don't need all of this or all of that. I think I try to live a very simple lifestyle. The shirt I'm wearing right now is from a thrift store, because it's one way I move happy. So I'm able to keep that lifestyle. I'm able to dress nice, but I shop at a thrift. I like my coffee and I like my tea, but knowing the right decisions to make to enjoy that coffee and that tea. We were talking during the mic check that it takes 30 gallons to make coffee, a cup of coffee, and 20 gallons of water to make green tea. So just knowing that, of course, looking at that perspective too. I hope I'm answering your question. Just looking at your daily actions, your daily operations, but you still can't maintain a lifestyle. It's just what they really look like. Like wine. I enjoy my wine. I learned that wine takes 10 more gallons to make of water than beer. So maybe I may switch it up and have more beer, kind of just offset that. But you can still maintain a very healthy lifestyle, not only for yourself, of course, for the environment.
Thank you. But doing this, like I said before, takes some sacrifice, some denial on you. But why should you be interested in doing it on behalf of the collective? Why should I care about the environment and other people and not just about me? I mean, it's all about me. Why is it important?
Because I guess being a Christian and reading my text, God said, love your neighbor as myself, as me. And so I'm supposed to love thy neighbor and care for creation. And that's a lot to really think about. But what does that define? Loving your neighbor, the guy across the street or the family down the road? Your neighbor is so beyond the person across the street. And just knowing that is what I'm supposed to do due to the faith, that I follow. And my neighbor is the bumblebees. My neighbor is the tree. My neighbor is the cat across the street. I'm not a cat person, but I respect the cat. I will leave him water. but that's it. So I guess that is not saying it's my responsibility, but I'm here to contribute. The earth was here before me, so the earth does not owe me anything. I owe the earth. I owe him, or actually her sister Earth, my respect. I'm not here to take from her. I'm here to live with her, because it's for the next generation. Because the Bible is an ecology book. The Bible tells us how to eat, how to share, how to love. And it's not just my fellow human, like you, Tosin. It's all of creation. If you look at the creation story, God made things in a particular order. He made man last. He didn't make man first.
What does that mean?
So if you go back to the creation story in Genesis, God, and the first thing God did was day and night. Then the ocean and the land. And they went through a process on developing our earth, our home. And humans were last. There's a reason why we're last. He chose us to care for the creation he just created. So knowing that right there, in Genesis chapter 1 and 2, he's setting it up. And it's a gift. It's a gift to be a caregiver. I'm an awesome aunt. I get to care for 3 wonderful persons that I have in my life. That's my responsibility. So how can I give those 3 lovely persons, the love that I have, but also, do this to the pollute or buy items that pollute, and so forth. So it's just realizing that we're supposed to be caregivers and be responsible, because I'm responsible for them, right? And so it's lovely to know that I have the opportunity to do that.
Wow, thank you. Thank you for that fresh perspective. And I wonder, what role or how could places of worship be more effective, or how do you really respond to climate crisis and do more acts of climate action?
So we only have I got a whole semester about this. But I appreciate this that question, because it's allowing me to get my thoughts together in my platform on my thesis I'm working on. Absolutely. I think it's great that there are some denominations like the Presbyterian Church and the Disciples of Christ and the Universal Unitarians. They have their own internal denominational green certification. Presbyterians, they call their certification Earth Care. Universal Unitarians, they call their certification the Green Sanctuary. And Disciples of Christ, they have the Green Chalice. And it's just like a LEED certification, what buildings have. But they tie it back to their denominational policy. And it's lovely. I'm focusing more on the Presbyterian Church and looking at what their policies are and their certification process. And they have, 4 sections. One's education, outreach, of course, the building themselves, and I forgot the 4th one. But anyway, there's 4 categories, and it's just looking at what you're currently doing and what else could you be doing. As you know, I'm on the board of trustees at my local church here in Dallas, and we look at purchasing, not using styrofoam cups when we have, coffee time. Use reusable mugs. Instead of using the plastic stirrers, you're paying for that 3 times. You're paying for that once to purchase, right? Once to put in the landfill, because you really can't recycle those little plastic stirrers. And then 3, you're paying for it indirectly with the landfill with all the greenhouse gases and the air pollution. So pay for that stewer 3 times. So instead of using a stewer, kind of rethink and take noodles, like spaghetti noodles, cut them in half, and you can use it as a stewer, and you can chew on it, right? So it's just helping, looking at churches as an organization, as an entity, and looking at what you're doing daily. Looking at your landscape. Churches like to have a very nice landscape. What kind of vegetation do you have? Looking at that perspective. When you repave your parking lot, don't use blacktop. Blacktop, contributes to the urban heat island index. You increase your heat index if you have a blacktop. So just helping churches look at opportunities to decrease their, not say carbon footprint, but even water usage and the heat they produce. So looking at that perspective, but also bridging it back to scripture as well, and then working with the community. It's not just, the church here, but what about the Baptists across the street? What about the Lutherans across the street? How can we work together as a community to partner with things? So absolutely.
Thank you so much, Kelly. We appreciate you being here with us today to share your perspective with us and also to get educated. Thank you. It's been like a classroom for me. Thank you so much. I appreciate that.
Of course, this is great. Just because sharing is caring. We just got to share with each other, and we got to listen to each other. And we all want to be good persons, and you don't have to have a faith to be a good person. You just have the will and just the ethics. And so it's just understanding that and moving together. So,
thank you. And normally on my platform, because you're doing things that it's commendable, and also I like to share a poem. It could be a prayer, it could be a poem to appreciate you. And let me read.
Okay.
It says, we give thanks for all those who are moved in their lives to heal and to protect the earth in small ways and in large ways. Blessing on the composters, the gardeners, the breeders of worm and the mushroom, the soil builders, those who have cleansed the waters and purified the air, and all those who have cleaned up the messes others have made. Blessing on all those who defend the trees, who plant trees, who guard the forest, and who renew the forest. Blessing on all those who learn to heal the grassland and renew the streams, and all those who prevent erosion, who restore the salmon and the fisheries, and those who guard the eating herbs and who know the layer of wild plants. Blessing on all those who heal the cities, who bring them alive again with excitement, creativity, and love. Gratitude and blessings to all those who stand up against greed, who risk themselves, and to those who have bled and have been wounded, and to those who have given their lives in service to the earth. Thank you so much, Kelly.
Oh, Tosin, thank you.
Positive vibe.
Oh, it's been so lovely meeting you, 2 years ago with Green Faith. And it's just nice having this connection, with you, Tosin. We're also Climate Reality presenters too. So just being part, of your journey as you do this wonderful Climate Action 101 for everyone to share their story. We all have our own unique and life ways of just being, good stewards. And thank you for the opportunity for me to share mine. And I'm still learning every day. Like I just said, I learned this morning that my coffee takes more to produce than my green tea. So,
wow.
But
thank you.
Thank you, Tosin.
Yeah. So, folks, that'll be it today on Climate Action 101. Until next week, we'll be coming again with other individuals, businesses, even government representatives to share with us what they're doing, how in their individual lives, and also operationally and corporationally, how they're responding to climate crisis, and ensuring that we have a planet that is habitable for us and also for people in the future. So thank you so much, and please remember to like this channel, subscribe to it, and share with families and friends. The earth is the only place we have, and the only home we have come to know, and it's so dear to us that without it, there is no us. So until then, bye-bye, and have a wonderful week.